Why are we protecting Syria's land? Assad's not a friend of ours. Why are we protecting their land? And Syria also has a relationship with the Kurds, who, by the way, are no angels. Are we supposed to fight a NATO member?
I know how our military leaders feel about this. They are just ashamed that the U.S. would abandon a battlefield ally. And then the president, in trying to justify that abandonment, is now trash-talking him.
He's making the biggest mistake of his presidency by assuming the Kurds are better off today than they were yesterday. That is just unbelievable.
Lindsey Graham, a lot more worked up than he was on the interview with us last night. As the Turkey situation continues, we are getting the release of a letter that the president sent to President Erdogan of Turkey. Dear Mr. President, let's work out a good deal. You don't want to be responsible for slaughtering thousands of people, and I don't want to be responsible for destroying the Turkish economy, and I will. I've already given you a little sample with respect to Pastor Brunson. I have worked to solve some of your problems. Don't let the world down. You can make a great deal. General Mazloum is willing to negotiate with you. He's willing to make concessions that they would never have made in the past. I am confidentially enclosing a copy of his letter to me, just received. History will look upon you favorably if you get this done the right and humane way. It will look upon you forever as the devil if good things don't happen. Don't be a tough guy. Don't be a fool. I will call you later. That's the letter I think Senator Graham was referencing yesterday when he talked to us. Let's bring in our panel. Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics co-founder and president. Mollie Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist. And Mo Elleithee, executive editor of the Georgetown Institute of Politics. Mollie, your sense of how this has evolved. We're now on day 8 of this Turkish invasion in northeastern Syria.
We're on day 8 because this is really not a debate about Turkey so much as it's a debate about what foreign policy we will have. And in the Republican Party, you had, going back to Eisenhower, a fairly consistent approach through George H.W. Bush, a realist, a principled realist foreign policy, an idea that we fight wars that are in our interest and we stay pretty focused on that. Beginning with George W. Bush, and you see it with Lindsey Graham, John McCain, you see this support of an interventionist foreign policy that's built more around democracy promotion abroad. 2016, you had Republican voters given a chance between Lindsey Graham and people like that and Donald Trump, and they pretty decisively went with Donald Trump. You had a general election where people chose Donald Trump. But among sort of the foreign policy intelligentsia here in this town, which came to power as part of that meddling in the Middle East in the early 2000s, you have a lot of people who really want to say that that was a good approach and they want to defend that approach. And that's really what we're fighting about here.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have a perspective of which military advisors are telling him that this was a good move. I'm not sure we've heard that on the inside. But your take on how this is all falling out on the politics of it?
Well, look, I think Trump did actually a good job today defending his decision, better than he's done in the past, saying, look, I go pin Purple Hearts on folks at Walter Reed. I go visit the caskets coming home at Dover Air Force Base. And we're not going to participate in that. We're going to bring our troops home. That has broad support across the country. What I think, but you can obviously see with the vote Republicans took in the House today, it's causing some friction on Capitol Hill. And part of the problem is the way that he went about it, right? Because he did, I think, as Trump normally does, reacts to his gut, reacts on instinct, surprises even people within his own administration, and that caused a lot of fallout.
So, meantime, the Vice President and the Secretary of State on their way over to Turkey, but the President of Turkey is saying, I'm not going to meet with them. Take a listen.
Right now, it is out of the question for me to meet with anyone other than Pence or Pompeo.
Remember, our goal here isn't to break the relationship with Turkey. They're a member of NATO. We have important security interests connected to Turkey. Our goal isn't to break the relationship. It is to deny Turkey the capacity to continue to engage in this behavior. The president said this was a bad deal, was a bad thing. We're working to stop it.
He said meet with anybody else besides Pence and Pompeo. Point being, they're hoping to get on the ground and convince Erdogan to work with the Kurds and stop the fighting.
Sure. I mean, look, the president created this situation when he pulled. I actually agree with Mollie that this is a discussion, a debate over competing foreign policies. But even if you support the president's foreign policy here, even if you believe that we should just get out of the region, how we did it is, I think, a huge red flag. And so, we created this situation by pulling out immediately with no warning, essentially just giving, through our actions, not our words, our actions, a green light for Turkey, now going in and saying, please don't do it anymore. I'm not sure Turkey's going to play ball. I also think the other problem is by just handing over, and as the president said today, Russia and Syria are now going to take care of the Kurds. He's essentially now creating a situation where we've flipped our once battlefield allies in the fight against ISIS and sent them to our biggest geopolitical rivals and a really bad guy in the Middle East. That's going to have long-term ramifications with our further alliances.
First of all, Trump isn't the one who has flipped that alliance. That's actually the rest of the foreign policy establishment, which went from saying that Turkey needed to be helped in their fight with, or to be defended against any Assad issues, to now being on the other side. And I think people should remember that. But I also think this discussion of the way that he departed it can't be had without thinking about the fact that the bureaucracy is very much opposed to Donald Trump, and that he has been explicitly clear for years about his desire to leave the region. But you've had resistance from within the bureaucracy, including among some of the people that he himself has appointed. That has to be part of the discussion, because if he wanted to get out, as he promised he would, he has to do it kind of rapidly.
I want to just put up on the screen this vote, the House measure opposing the decision to end certain United States efforts to prevent Turkish military operations against Syrian Kurdish forces in northeastern Syria. This is not a small vote, 354 to 60. All the noes did come from Republicans. 4 members voted present. But, Molly, they're up for re-election, just like, it was the same election. So.
Yeah, and it's not bad to support Kurds here. The problem is how to do it and what is being done. People should have more votes about what they want their policy to be.